Hey everyone, welcome back. Super excited for this next session. We're talking about AI-powered team transformation at scale. I have the pleasure to hand you over to our good friend Matt Burns.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you everyone for joining us today. It's been another great day at the AI HR Summit. We're learning lots about human resources and artificial intelligence and how they intersect. And as Chris mentioned, we have a great panel here today to talk about one of my favorite topics when it comes to this conversation, which is how we look at AI-powered team transformation at scale. And joining me today, we have a great panel. We have Rohit Begani, the co-founder, CTO, and Chief Operating Officer at ASUP, Carmen Barboza, Chief HR Officer at Crowell and Mooring, Stuart Martin, Director of Global People Services and People Platform Leader at Lloyd's Banking Group, Jeanette Winter, Chief HR Officer at 8x8, and Jim Mahan, Chief HR Officer at Teradyne. Hi, everyone. How's it going today?
Great. Looking forward to it.
All right, let's get into it. People are waiting. Carmen, I'll start with yourself. Love to learn a bit more about overcoming resistance to AI adoption in teams, and specifically, when we're introducing AI to teams, sometimes that can be met with skepticism or fear of job displacement. How can leaders address resistance proactively and foster a culture of trust and openness when implementing those AI tools?
Sure. I think we're all comfortable and understand the idea that change is hard. And so my first piece of advice is always clarity is kindness. So let's be really upfront about we're all in this together. We're all learning. Let's try to keep a growth mindset open that we're not there yet, and bring them along in the journey. I think, sometimes the concern comes from, am I going to be left behind? What does this mean for me? And what I like to say is we all know that HR is a human-centered profession. And while AI can augment some of the capabilities, it's not really going to replace them. So I would encourage all of our leaders to be very upfront about that. There is still a place for you, and bring them along into the conversation as to how can we be rethinking our roles. The second piece that I always say to people here at our firm, but when I speak to others in the profession, is talk about how you envision the change, right? Paint the picture for them so they can see themselves in it as well. Education and upskilling is so crucial. So make sure that those opportunities are available. Model that behavior. So I like to say, I'm doing this training. I'm speaking on this panel. I'm educating. I'm taking all of the resources available because I myself don't know it. But if I don't want to be left behind, it's incumbent upon me to also take advantage of the opportunities out there. And I think the last piece of it is make sure that you also include your teams as you think about where we're headed. We have what we call the Light Bulb Awards here. So we've put out a call for submissions. And it could be a hackathon, it could be a Sparkathon, whatever you want to call it. But there is so much value to getting diversity of perspective and voices so that we can think about where are those gaps and where should we be adding higher value. And I don't think that all of us know all the answers. So if we involve our teams, if we solicit feedback, if we iterate as we go, then this is a journey that we are all taking together. So folks are more likely to be invested in it. They feel like they are part of the solution. They feel like their voices are heard, and it leads to just better user adoption overall.
Matt, can I add a few quick thoughts or build on that?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, no, so I absolutely concur with Carmen's thoughts. A few things from us in terms of what we've done to enhance adoption at scale. We have provided to our employees or colleagues, as we refer to them here. We have roughly 65,000. We provided them, about a year ago, access to AI-specific training. So we developed 12 sort of bite-sized TQ models, talent quotients models, with various components of AI built into that. So about an hour, bite-sized chunks, and we provided it to everyone. 12 of those modules, from quantum computing to what's an LLM, ethical use of AI. And the intent and purpose for that was, as Carmen called out or mentioned, is just to build the trust and credibility and sort of do some myth busting. And then over and above that, we did two other things. We've taken our top leadership team, so the top 300, our senior leaders, we've given them additional training and education in AI, just to give them additional context, a strategic perspective, and to put them in a position to have really conversations with high levels of confidence. And then the final bit, we also have a large trade union body here. Our employees are represented by two trade unions. We've also spent and invested some time with the trade union leaders to help them get to a similar level of understanding around what AI is and how we're using it and how we plan to use it across the organization. So building that trust has been really helpful for us in terms of at scale.
Yeah, I love that. Both of you talked about investments you're making in the organization, whether it's in the trade union, whether it's within your own HR teams. I think that is such a powerful message to be sending across the organization when people are asking questions around their futures. Just the very act of investing in those conversations, in that training, in that development, creates the conditions whereby you're doing it as a group, you're doing it as a team, and that creates a lot more cohesion, a lot more engagement through the entire process. So kudos to both of you for doing that. Jim, I'd love to open it up to you right now. I'd love to get your thoughts on the CHRO's perspective. How can CHROs collaborate with other C-suite leaders to build and scale teams with AI expertise, and at the same time ensure alignment with business strategy while fostering that culture of widespread AI adoption across the organization?
Well, thanks, Matt. It's actually a great question. And I actually want to start by recognizing Carmen's opening, which is the point around we're all learning together here. Like, things are moving very fast. And I would add, complementing that is we're all dealing with different situations. And so recognizing that all, C-suites have a wide variety of C-suites that we're all dealing with. But I'll share some general thoughts around how we have approached it at Teradyne, and how I think some of the key things that are important in order to work with the C-suite and work with the organization. And we really have had a dual effort here, two things in parallel. One of which is centered around an enterprise-wide steering committee to oversee what we're doing, and the second of which is an enterprise-wide project to bring our operating principles more to life. And I'll talk about each of them a little bit more. First of all, the steering committee. We're a technology company, provide hardware and software technology solutions. I won't talk so much about the use of AI within our products. That has a unique set of challenges. But we have this enterprise-wide steering team, which is overseeing all of the activity around the AI at a high level. So it's designed structurally to have representation from groups, all different divisions, all different groups, including a member from HR. And the intent is for us to learn together, learn from each other, while the steering committee is also providing oversight and governance, and they're developing governance rules along the way. So we have, by very nature, we don't have a lot of experience-based technology people in HR, meaning that's part of their job. We don't have. I happen to be an engineer, but that's more unusual, certainly at Teradyne, in HR. But yet we still have in the HR community plenty of technically capable people. And the important thing is identifying somebody that has curiosity and passion for this area. And that's what we did, identified an HR team member to join this steering committee. And they joined with very limited knowledge and experience in the AI specifically, but with, again, a lot of curiosity, certainly inherent technical skills, the capability and learning agility. And it's been, the first year is more just learn and absorb and see what's going on. But this enterprise-wide steering committee helps to bring everybody along together, but still foster and enable each of the individual functions or groups to go and experiment and do their thing. So within HR, we have a sub-team of HR folks, again, a small team of 4 or 5 people that have passion around this area and a little bit of curiosity, and they're experimenting. And so it's sort of back and forth between the local HR space. We're doing some things, connecting in at the enterprise level and making sure that we're enabling both the localized activity as well as staying tied together. And that's happening around the company. So that's one thing that we're doing. The second thing, which I think is as important, at least for us, has been, is that in the end, everything's moving so fast. This is going to be, success is going to be dependent on the ability for the localized managers to be able to manage the workforce and the teams and the development. And Teradyne has a very strong culture. We're over 6 decades in the industry, and have strong values. You can see them over my shoulder here that we codified about 25 years ago. But we also have strong operating principles, but they were it's sort of embedded in the culture. And over the course of the past year, we've launched a project that is essentially designed to extract the operating principles from within the organization, not define them from the top, but say what are our active operating principles. And now we're in the phase of now bringing that back out to the organization, so that the workforce has changed over a lot. And within those operating principles, 3 core elements are collaboration. We're a very collaborative company, accountability, and the pursuit of continuous improvement. And so getting the organization, getting the managers at the local level to understand and internalize those operating principles. And now we can talk about how does that apply in a world of developing AI, right? Doing it in a collaborative way with other groups, other teams, being accountable. Because in the end, AI is not going to, certainly not in the near term, going to take over making the decisions. We need to make sure that the managers, the employees retain accountability for any decision. And so those are the 2 things that we've done in parallel over the last year, just trying to work our way in this. But we're in the early stages, to Carmen's point. We're learning and developing, certainly on the organizational side. We're certainly further ahead on how we use AI within our products, but that's a different part of the discussion.
Well, and that's pretty consistent with what we're seeing, Jim, across most organizations, which is they're looking at how do they reconcile some of these changes internally, because it has impacts to things that you talked about, culture, core values. And I love that your organization has been really intentional about that from the very beginning, how it's really thought about artificial intelligence through the lens of your strategy and your culture, which is exactly the right way. As opposed to the inverse, many companies are chasing AI and letting it affect culture, letting it affect strategy, which in some cases may not be the right decision for the business or the employees that inhabit it. So kudos to your organization for really taking the lead on that. I think it's sometimes you have to go slow to go fast. And of course, in the case of AI, you don't want to go too slow, but there's also something to be said for going too fast. So I think there's a really nice balance to be struck, and you know better than most kind of the pace at which you can implement change in your organization. Jeanette, I'd love to hear from you. We haven't heard from you yet, but I'd love to get your thoughts on team collaboration specifically. AI tools are often used to improve individual productivity, but their impact on team dynamics is just as significant. In your opinion, how can AI foster better collaboration and communication across teams? And can you share any specific examples of that?
Absolutely. And thanks, Matt. One of the things I want to start with, Gallup released a report last week that said only 6% of employees are comfortable working with AI. Think about that. 6%. We're spending billions and billions of dollars around the world on AI, and yet 94% of employees are uncomfortable with it. I think they're uncomfortable with it because of fear, either job security or highlighting deficiencies in their own skill set. And that's really one of the things, that's where we've started to really look at. One of the things I tell people all the time is AI is everywhere. Last night, I was sending flowers with a condolence message, and unbelievably, a little pop-up came up and said, would you like help in framing your message to go with the flowers? Well, I don't know if you've written a condolence card lately, but it's very hard. They asked me how much I knew the person, how long I knew them, what my relationship was, and in essence, the context. They gave me 3 lines. It was the most beautiful thing. I got great kudos for the text, even though I'd had very important help. We need to understand AI is already very pervasive in our world, whether it's as customers, as consumers, employees, and as individuals. But, you've asked specifically about collaboration. Let's start with the definition. It's working with someone or someone's, plural, to produce or create something, solve something, get something done. Well, what we started doing is that we decided to have people work towards shared goal and problem solve. So 2 examples. We wanted to shorten time in recruiting. Now, there is always that inherent tension between the recruiters and the hiring managers. Am I getting the best candidates as a hiring manager? Are they getting them fast enough to me? The recruiters are saying, are you paying attention? Do you have the right job description? Lots of issues that AI actually has been very helpful in us solving. For us, hiring takes anywhere from 45 to 50 days to fill a position. We found through our HRIS, which, by the way, has 50 inherent instances of AI already present in it. We didn't put them there. It came with the package. So I think we need to remember that we've got a lot more at our fingertips than we might even know. But we asked and had help sorting through resumes. A recent search, we had 2,000 applicants. 2,000 resumes by 1 minute to review each resume is 33 hours. Well, when you've got 100, 200 positions that you're searching, you just don't have time for that. So what we did was we used the platform and the AI capability to align the job description, the requirements from the hiring managers with the resumes. The hiring managers were absolutely gobsmacked. They were very excited, feeling that they'd been heard. At the same time, it happened in a snap. We were so happy about that. But that's one of the things that using technology that's already available to us and bringing the teams together for mutual problem solving. And these are issues that are ouchy, itchy, crunchy for everybody involved. But what it does is everybody gets something out of this, and you start saying, how can we do more of this? It has been brilliant. Scheduling interviews. Scheduling interviews has been the biggest sink hole for us in terms of, how much it takes to actually get candidates together with recruiters for pre-screening and then with hiring managers and their panels. And so we used an AI-based platform that schedules calls in seconds and initiates the evaluation process, as well as saves time in communicating back. Again, this was a problem that we jointly had. Hiring managers, if they have a rec, they needed somebody yesterday. So our job is everything that we can do to speed up the process in a valid and reliable manner that is not inherently based on bias. And so, Jim, you had a question or a comment you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, first of all, a great summary, Jeanette, and really applaud what you're doing there. On the front part of what you said, it's more of a little bit more of a personal view of AI and how it's evolving. And obviously, you shared a personal example of how you experienced it just very recently. I go back when I first started at Teradyne, which was over 4 decades ago. My first day, I was put on I was an engineer. I put on the line in the repair area next to a mentor, a more senior engineer. And I remember, the charter was learning how to debug circuit boards. And he, long before automated, he had switches and scopes and meters, and he'd throw some switches and power, and then he'd turn it all off, and he'd pick up the board, and he'd look at it, and he'd say, there's the short. And I thought to myself, I was right out of school, how am I ever going to be able to do what he's doing? And what I didn't realize at the time, he had a simple data model in his head. He built a data model based on his experiences that he was using to recognize when this behavior occurs, there's often a manufacturing defect at this particular location on the board. And over time, I learned built my own data model, but then I would also go to Frank. And I'd ask him when I ran into something I didn't know, and I'd ask him for some help, like, what have you seen? And I was gathering that insight. And that evolved, and obviously as the internet became easy to reach out to more people and get more expertise. And So I think about Jeanette's example with the sympathy card, and many people, it's a very difficult thing to do. Many people, going back long before AI, would ask for help. They'd go to their parent, their best friend, their, somebody to say, I'm not sure what to say. What should I say? And they get input, and then they write that. Is it less authentic? And so one of the things that I try to do is bring that into the discussion with people as they think about AI. It's an evolution, obviously, of technology aided, but the important thing is taking accountability and, certainly in a personal example like that, making sure it's an authentic representation of what you want, but it's something we've been doing for decades or generations, looking to other people to help give us guidance on how to write something, how to structure something, how to build a PowerPoint slide, right? It's just an evolution.
And evolving we are. That is absolutely so true. That is so true. And I know that just the second example that I wanted to share with folks, McKinsey has reported for almost 6 years now that each of us spends about 2 hours a day looking for information. And think if you got 2 hours back in your day. And so we started looking at how we could expedite that. Well, in our communications platform, we have integrated text, video, voice, all of that. And so we said, how can we support our user community in solving issues of communication and finding things? Well, one of the things is creating group chats. I mean, it sounds so simple. We do it every day. But all I have to do, if we have 3 group chats going on right now across the globe that are all looking at our pilots that we've got going on in very big ways for both internal processes as well as with our customer on using AI. And so, it's just like, I don't have to, if I've got an AI question, I go to 3 places and I will get hundreds of responses like that. Here's the added AI feature. We have a translation capability, which is automatic. So you can set your language if you'd like. And then there's that whole idea of transcript. So the thing, I don't know about you, you can have 1,000 meetings in a week and it takes me all weekend to write the minutes. Well, I don't spend all weekend writing minutes of meetings anymore because it's automatically built in to the platform. And it's that, and so you say, well, how is that problem solving? It is more inclusive. It increases transparency, which are 2 critical outcomes for our AI communication, and literally takes nothing more than perhaps typing the first 4 or 5 letters of someone's name. And then it pops up that, you can have access to those individuals. So for me, collaboration enablement is what AI is really doing. Now, there's lots beyond that, but that's where, as a people person, that's really where I'm looking. And to enable productivity that has meaning. So it's not just, getting a process done quicker, faster, with less intensity, but I want people to feel like they've been better served internally as well as through our client base. And that's just what we're seeing. Now, to be fair, in HR, we're just scratching the surface. But I will attest to the fact that our journey so far, and we've been at this for about 9 months now, has been fabulous. It takes training, it takes learning on individuals' part, and an investment of time. But the payback is very fast, and it is really enlightening. So for us, it's been a real high point for the last 9 months, and we only see it getting better from there. But we do have to go, I'll go back to where I started. 6% of people are comfortable in working with AI. Our job in HR, in the people arena, is to ensure we're providing opportunities to reduce that fear in an authentic and transparent manner.
I really appreciate what you're saying, Jeanette, and really resonates with me a lot, especially where you started and ended your point about 6% of people who are comfortable with AI. And then you went on to talk about how AI is actually integral and ubiquitous in everything we do. So what's really happening is when we call it as AI, as a thing AI, people are fearful of it. They don't fully understand it. And they're saying, well, I'm not comfortable with it. And at the same time, they may actually be doing three things where they're using AI in the same minute or even in the next few minutes and so on. And I think this for me reminds me of when we had online payment come out for the first time. I'm sure all of you remember, everyone was suspicious. We were like, I don't know about the safety, the security. People didn't want to use it. And yes, there is some security work that needs to be done just to build trust with institutions. But what really changed it is that it became ubiquitous. You would go to a platform, you would go to something, there was just a button, you can click on it, buy something. And suddenly, because it was easy, people started using it. But when we call it, when we label it as something specific, which they don't understand, it's too much. It's fear. It's something that creates fear. So it really, really resonates with me what you were sharing, and that's something we have seen in our org as well. The way I've really seen it change is by really doing actually what you were saying, Carmen, initially, which is modeling the change or leading by example. So instead of saying, hey, why don't you use AI there? We don't have to do that. I just share the places where I have used AI and it has augmented my abilities, or it has truly changed what I can bring forward. And it also gives my people a sense of feeling that I'm being vulnerable in sharing with them that I don't fully get it too, right? There are parts where I was testing it out and it worked out for me. So I really appreciate this conversation we're having.
Thank
I
you.
do too. This gets me so jazzed. I have like 20 notes going, right? But I think there's a common thread in everything that we're talking about, which is we need to be collaborating. We can't be working in silos, right? And so there's the gym example of you have either a steering committee or an advisory committee. Like we should be a part of that. And we should be driving sort of that change management because we're in the people business. We know what's happening. We know, Rohit, like you said, there's that fear of the unknown. Like AI sounds super scary, but if you give someone the option of, I don't want to write a condolence message, if someone can do that for me, I'm in. So it's a matter of sort of thinking about what do we call AI and normalizing and making it feel like something that's attainable, that's something within reach, something that we are all in together, as I said before. And another thought I had as I was listening to your example, Janelle, was you've cut a lot of time. So process improvement, iteration. So now things that took, hours can now take a few minutes. But I think the key in not losing people when these things happen is to explain that this is now freeing you up to your best and highest use. So it's not now you're going to be without a job because I have this scheduler, so my admin and recruiting needs to start looking for jobs. It's explaining to that person that this has now given you 2 hours back in your day, and how could you be using that time differently? And I want us to be intentional about continuing to bring the conversation back to there's a place for you. This is freeing you up to do different type of work as opposed to the fear behind it, which is now I'm going to be replaced by AI.
That's really a good point, Carmen. We did reduce our recruiting staff last year from 18 to 6. Now, we did not furlough those people. We did not terminate them. We have a whole lot of other work and a whole lot of other areas that is labor intensive. Things like the candidate experience or, really connecting our employee value proposition, all of those things. And what we've done is we took those 12 people and put them on projects that we didn't have staff for. And so we aligned their skills and competencies. So people weren't diving into, into the deep end without help, but it has moved everything forward. And so it's just, to me, it's exciting. I always say, look, if we can automate something and free us up to do these other things we want to do, and we always, I bet there's not a person listening that doesn't have a list this long about everything that they want to get done or they need to get done. And that's why it's enabling us to be more productive, but in a very collaborative manner. It's the key to the collaboration. This benefits everyone in the system, candidates, the hiring managers, the recruiters, you name it. And but it really is important to, to get back to that. I think great comment, Carmen, great comment.
Great comments by the group. And I think we're being clear about the benefits to organizations around AI and adoption of AI and the importance of bringing people with us on the journey. Stuart, I'd love to get your thoughts as well about personalization, because part of this conversation involves what's in it for me. If I'm the individual employee, the individual manager, I need to see value attached to any adoption of new technology. And one of the challenges of scaling organizations is providing tailored developmental opportunities, especially today. In your opinion, how can AI help HR and team leaders personalize development programs for diverse teams while ensuring alignment with organizational goals?
Thanks, Matt. Before I answer the question, just a quick build on the previous one. I mean, we've just deployed in the HR organization. So part of my portfolio is in the HR ecosystem, providing HR services. We've just deployed a week or two ago our first Gen AI enabled query management tool. And the commitment we've made to the organization is that we will give you at a minimum 1% of your time back in a given week, because we kind of done some estimates. And we'll give it back to you, and I think as Carmen called out, to do some more high value, some other stuff, be that reskilling, upskilling, being some other type of work. And so that was a very simple, easily digestible business case that we were able to take to the business in support of this. I think to your question, though, I'll answer it, but with a few examples. So just for brief context, we made a decision just over 2 years ago to move to become much more skills-based organization. Again, nothing new about that. But when you peel back the layers around what that actually means, we played in a few places. So we're now on a journey to do skill-based strategic workforce planning rather than role-based necessarily. So we've got a skills-based organization capability. We do skills-based hiring, as you may expect. We spent a bit of time in the last 18 months also reviewing and looking at our job architecture and job families. So we've got rid of quite a few, we've added a few, but we've simplified that quite substantially. And then from a development perspective, we've also combined our strategic objective about upskilling, cross-skilling or reskilling by looking at how AI can help us. And so very specific to your question, what we've done is we've implemented a learning experience platform that's AI enabled. And what that does is it's pulling in data, in our case, from a well-known platform, LinkedIn, looking at external data to identify which skills are hot, which skills are trending, and which skills are in decline. So we can, when we do recruitment, we can tap in there. From a development perspective, we're able to provide our employees, or as we refer to them as colleagues, we can provide our colleagues some deep insight that enables them or allows them to do personalized learning. So one of the things we're able to do is to say, for example, we notice someone with a similar role profile and skill set to yourself, Carmen, in this case, hypothetically, they have a similar role to you in the organization. If you look at their training program or their learning and development of the last 6 months, these are the other things that they've done. It's proved to be invaluable or proved to be of value to that individual. We recommend you do that level or similar training. We're also able to get that down to a proficiency level. So if you're at proficiency level 2, I'm just, again, hypothetically, by doing the following training, and to be clear, it's not only it's complex training, including application thereof, we can get you to a 4, and therefore your career trajectory and your opportunities for career development and growth is very, very different. And so we are also looking at what skills are sort of in development or sought after in the market. Look to see whether we can look at what skills individuals or teams have within our organization today, and then by inference, we can look at saying, again, I'm choosing a random example. As a project manager, these are some skills you have today. These skills are in decline. These skills are in demand. If you do some reskilling or cross-skilling, you can actually get yourself up to into a space where the skill set is in sort of more on the up and demand perspective, and therefore enabling our colleagues to really think deeply about upskilling opportunities, reskilling opportunities, but do it in a way that tracks back to where we are from a strategic perspective. So the customized, highly personalized opportunities we provide them is based on a set of data that is really there to enhance their personal and professional growth and their marketability within the organization. And externally, we're quite comfortable that we are feeding and developing broader society if people choose to leave us over at a point in time. Internally, though, we have a talent marketplace concept where people can go in and look for additional opportunities based on the learning program, or look for opportunities to pick up a gig or something similar to enhance their employability within the organization and seek opportunities in other teams. We are an agile-based organization, early days. We're about 2.5 years in. So, for example, in my space in HR, I have an agile team, and therefore gigs are very agile enabled. And so people can have a 3, 4, 6 months secondment, depending on which squad they want to play in, or which product ownership they want to develop, product capability they want to develop. So that's been incredibly helpful. So looking at external data, creating an internal marketplace, and having an agile-based organizational capability, those 3 things have been incredibly helpful for us in this particular space. Hopefully that helps answer the question, Matt.
No, it really does. And I think it paints a right picture about how you think about things at the personalized level, but also at macro organizational level. And I think it brings us back to a conversation that I want to have with Rohit, which is we're talking about building and scaling high-performing teams. And it's a key priority for everyone we've talked to on this panel and for many organizations. So from your opinion, Rohit, how can AI help identify team dynamics specifically, optimize those workflows, and replicate success across multiple working groups?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I'm going to extend on your answers to it because I think you covered quite a few of those things really well, which is where I would have said there is an opportunity. So this is a topic we have been working on for a while, and I could talk about it for hours, but I'm going to keep it very constrained and talk about 3 specific areas and really just chunk it as that: the understanding, the replication, and building. These are the 3 places where I see us having a lot of opportunity to continue leveraging AI. So let me break it down a bit, right? The understanding. The understanding is where we better understand the individuals and teams within our organization. For a long time, we have been deploying many kinds of assessments. Some of those could be self-assessments, peer assessments, manager assessments, 360s, team assessments, many different ways of assessing people, essentially, right? And we capture that data, we analyze it to identify the baseline of growth opportunities for the organization. There are a couple of things in this which I believe can be optimized much more. One big one is that assessments are a moment in time, right? You capture an assessment data at some specific time, then you have a cadence, you have to wait for that period, and then you get an update, essentially. So the change or the growth, the understanding, all of that is happening slowly. So that's the first place where, by leveraging AI, especially with behavioral analysis tools, we can actually get much more dynamic in the flow of work feedback. And this is something we have been using at ASAP quite a bit as well. So essentially, imagine a world where, as we get out of this conversation, all of us are able to get a personalized report of what we did well and what we could have done differently. And this is the kind of thing where you don't just get to see immediately some of the opportunities for growth, but because of the ability of generative AI especially, you can have a virtual coach which is embedded in this flow. So when you identify a growth opportunity, you have one-click way to actually work on that immediately. One of the experiences we had with one of our customers where we were deploying team solution was the team leader had a perspective on why the team was struggling in moving towards their business goals, right? And one of the things our model was able to analyze and very quickly surface was that actually the team is very hierarchical and they do not have an open communication. And when this was surfaced back to the team leader, they did not really readily accept it. They did not believe that was real. But because the AI is basing its identification on very specific phrases or things it's capturing, it's able to highlight evidence in a psychologically safe way for the team leader, where they're able to reflect on it. And we saw this individual engaging with the virtual coach as well to actually work on different ways they can show up in the next session to do things differently. So that's the first place where I think the understanding of individuals and teams can really change with how we leverage AI. I think embedding the virtual coach in their flow of work and provide them feedback and growth mechanism at all times. And I think the other very important thing is it can completely help you understand the interconnectivity between individuals and teams. And that's an important one because in any organization, high-performing organization, it's not just siloed high-performing teams. It's actually teams which work well with each other. And that's where when you have this level of deep understanding of their behaviors, of their skills, you're able to say, okay, this is where we see interconnectivity issues. This is where there's strength. This is where there are systemic gaps of growth opportunities across the org. And this is another one where with a large customer, we had a very significant change in how we were deploying a program with them, because when we did the organizational heat map, what we saw was one of the things that they wanted to grow on was actually blocked by a different systemic issue that exists across the organization. And this is the kind of thing that comes in as a blocker in other aspects of work that they do as well, such as skills-based teams that you were mentioning, Stuart. So I'll come back to that in the building part. So moving to the replication, the other thing which is very important, and as you understand what's working for a high-performing team, your ability to share it very quickly with other teams who are facing similar issues or individuals, again, in the flow of work, that part is critical. We cannot ask people to come out, dedicate themselves to a tool and learn from that. So it has to be happening consistently all the time. I think that replication and really identifying and codifying the key attributes is very valuable. And last one, this is where the building part, I think, is where it all culminates, which is, first of all, the personalization that we can do. And Stuart, you mentioned quite a few of them, really being able to give them in-context information. People in your role across the world, they're actually working on these kind of skills. The skills that you are good in, we are seeing actually there's a dip in demand for it. What we are seeing is with the evolution in our product, there's a need for a different kind of skill. So there's a way for us to continue giving them nudges in the right direction, but also provide them a personalized path where we can show them that that's not what you should just do in the next 2 weeks. But these are the steps you should take over the next 6 to 12 months to really move towards this goal. And this personalized journey is only possible because we have a much deeper understanding of what's working for others. And the last one I'll say is the skills-based team that you mentioned, Stuart. That's one of the things which I strongly believe in, because as many of you, I believe this is the future of what we are going towards as organizations. And with predictive collaborative modeling or other AI technologies, or AI model technologies, what we can do really is, because we have an understanding of their hard skills, because we have an understanding of their behaviors, we can actually very quickly predict which teams will do well. So let me pause on that. But as I said, there's a lot that.
And we've covered a lot in 40 minutes. I don't know about anybody else in this panel, but that time flew by for me, listening to 5 of you speak really eloquently about this conversation. AI, team transformation, it's top of mind for most HR leaders today. But with limited time left, I'm going to wrap up with a final point for each of us. So if we can just go around popcorn style, what's one thing that each of you took away from today's conversation, listening to your peers around this topic, that you want to bring back to your organizations or that you want to evangelize to the broader audience listening for us today? Carmen, I'll start with you.
I think collaboration is going to be key. And I think that we play a large role in making sure that we are prepared for it and that we are leading the way with sort of empathy, but also this growth mindset. And I saw a little bit of that in what everyone is doing at their organization. And it just leaves me even more energized and excited for what's ahead.
And Jim.
Think about how to demystify and normalize. Many panelists talked about that. The reason, the hesitancy around it is a fear of losing jobs, a fear of the unknown, or the fear of it's not appropriate or real, like it's fake. Sometimes I think that I wish AI, we talked about it as augmented intelligence versus artificial intelligence, but because we've been doing, my point earlier, augmenting our intelligence since the beginning of time, where we ask people for help and insight. So anyway, it's how can we demystify and normalize it? We've been, automating since the Industrial Revolution. We've been augmenting intelligence since the beginning of time as well. This is just an iteration on that.
And Jeanette.
I've just been riveted listening to my colleagues here. And the thing I take away from today, and Carmen, you said it so eloquently to start us off, clarity is kindness. And one of the things that I think we need to remember is that this is not technology for technology's sake, and it's not technology to eliminate jobs. It's to get things done. It's to solve problems. It has a vibrant, viable purpose. And I think that is the clarity that we need to inject into our organizations. And, I feel I have new energy around this. So let's go.
Stuart, how about yourself? Any new energy today?
I'm going to build on some of my colleagues' earlier comments. Two things. One, Jeanette's comment that 94% of people are still afraid of it means there's a huge amount of work to do. Clarity is kindness, education, myth busting. There's a lot to do, and I don't think we should walk past that and potentially risk getting rather than a digital divide, an AI divide in society. So I think that is one thing. But for me, if I kind of spin it around a little bit, it's also a very exciting time as I listen to the conversations here. I think all of us are in a rather privileged position to really fundamentally pause and reimagine work. We're not tweaking it. We're not doing process re-engineering. We have the opportunity to pause and really use the transformative power of AI in some broader society and therefore work. And for me, that's terribly exciting.
And last but not least, Rohit.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really the need for us to change the conversation from this label of AI to a problem and solution mindset. I think we are getting too caught up sometimes in this label of AI, and we are really losing the real value of it.
I couldn't agree with you guys more. And I would just end with my final comment, which is I'm seeing this as an opportunity to address a couple different problems, but it starts with use cases, identifying what's the problem that we're trying to solve, and then pairing the solution against it. And if it's artificial intelligence, amazing. But there's lots of great work happening in organizations right now that is not tied to artificial intelligence. So think about those use cases. If there's an application for AI, fantastic. And if there's not, then we can explore other opportunities.
Amazing, Matt. Thank you so much. I'm surprised. I know how you've done very well to get through all those questions. The time really did go really, really fast. But for everyone listening, we're going to be right back in 15 minutes. But thank you again for Matt for moderating. Thank you to our incredible panelists. We'll see you back here shortly for the next session. We're going to be talking about how the world's top organizations generate business value through people analytics. Before you leave for your break, make sure you click the below button. You can download there your definitive guides to the business impact of team coaching. So make sure you do that. Download that now before it disappears for the next session. And we'll see you back here shortly. But thank you so much to our panelists and to Matt. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you shortly. Bye, everyone.